Kieran, we're going to pick your dream five-a-side team based on every player you've played with in your career.
Very difficult.
Yeah, hard, isn't it?
Yeah.
So formation, firstly, what are you going to go with?
1-2-1.
1-2-1, okay.
And I'm going to throw a little bit of a curveball.
Oh, are
I
you?
think my team is going to be so dominant and have a lot of the ball that I'm not going to have a goalie.
You're not going to have a goalie?
No, I'm going to put Rio as
Hang on.
Yep.
Why are you not having a goalie here?
Because we're that good.
Right.
And Rio's that good as a sweeper. He won't have any shots to save because we'll be dominating the ball.
Wow.
So as he's not a goalie, playing as the number one position, I would have Rio Ferdinand.
So Rio would be the most defensive-orientated player in the team.
Especially when Glenn Hoddle was manager and we used to play the three centre-halves, Rio was groomed for that position, weren't he? To play in the middle, a bit like Beckenbauer, Lothar Matthäus.
Yeah.
Someone who can read the game so well, unbelievable on the ball. So he'd be perfect sweeping up. Someone's attacking us, he'll be like a sweeper sweeping up the ball, doesn't need to use his hands, and off we go. So I'd go for Rio, yeah.
You played with John Terry, Rio Ferdinand, Ledley King, Jonathan Woodgate, a lot of Sol Campbell, a lot of great defenders. For you then, is Rio the most complete of all of those players?
It's a tough one because they all had their strengths and weaknesses, but yeah, for me, Rio was more elegant than the rest. He was just, like I said, he was a Rolls Royce. That's the best way to describe him. He was like a Rolls Royce of a player. And that's why, out of all them centre-halves, I would go for Rio.
Have you ever seen him in goal? Because he might have to do a job if you've not got a keeper. Has he ever been in stick?
No, but he's tall, he's a lanky so-and-so. So, he won't need to use his hands, we'll be that good.
With that said, there's stories of players like Rooney used to like going in goal, didn't he? Were there any outfield players when you were playing that used to do a job in goal in training or used to like going in sticks?
I have seen Wazza in goal at the end of training sessions and that, and lads smashing balls at him and he's flying around like an absolute maniac.
Really?
And the managers are like turning away thinking he'd get hurt and stuff, but he's probably the only one. So yeah, Rio in goal, and then in front of him as my next defender, I'm not going to go for a centre-half, I'm going to go for a full-back. And I think when you talk about the golden generation of players, this player was the best in his position in the world at the time. And I don't think any other England player could say that, and that is Ashley Cole. When Roberto Carlos was coming towards the end, Ashley Cole was unbelievable. You just see his tussles, what he had with Ronaldo.
Yeah.
Everyone talks about fullbacks nowadays, they're like wingers, and him and Roberto Carlos and Cafu were the pioneers of that. They were the benchmark, and again, had everything, pace, aggressive in the tackle, could read the game so well, and was quality on the ball, so he would be my defender.
And you mentioned that famous game when he made Ronaldo look average, didn't he, that game? Was that his greatest performance, do you think?
I was lucky enough to be in the Euro 2004 squad, and we lost to Portugal, and obviously we went out on penalty, and Darius missed the penalty, and after the game, all the players come on to commiserate him and that, but I went straight to Ashley, and I can remember just saying, we've lost the game and obviously we're devastated, but that performance is one of the best performances I've ever seen in an England shirt, because Ronaldo was an out-and-out winger there with tricks and that, and he had him in his pocket, and that's a testament to how great he was.
Yeah, so you've got Rio and Ashley, your two defensive players. You've now got three others. So who'd you go for next?
The best player I ever played with, Paul Scholes. The argument's always said, who's better, Paul Scholes, Frank Lampard and Steven Gerrard. In my humble opinion, Paul Scholes was the best. And it's kind of crazy because the other two, if you probably said who had the better career, like Steven Gerrard and Frank Lampard, they had like individual moments. I think they both scored in Champions League, in Champions League finals, and Frank is Chelsea's all-time leading goal scorer, and Steven Gerrard, a bit unfairly to his teammates, but was classed as a one-man team. And Scholes, with all the superstars they had at Man United, he kind of just was in the background, but people who played with him and played against him knew that he was so special and so unique, and he could do everything except for tackle.
Everything
except for tackle. I'd been on the receiving end of a few of them tackles, and in the way the game's going today, he would have more red cards than someone like Joey Barton in today's football. But yeah, what a player. So he'd be on one side of the midfield, and the second one, I would have Steven Gerrard.
Yeah.
Where I said Paul Scholes couldn't tackle, Gerrard was complete. He could run up and down, he could play defensive midfield, he could play off the striker, got unbelievable delivery, scored wonder goals, and he would be the captain of my team. He had everything, and I know a lot of people talk about Kenny Dalglish as Liverpool's greatest ever player, and I was a Liverpool fan and I've seen all the tapes and that, but Kenny Dalglish had a great team with him and he was surrounded by great players, and Steven Gerrard didn't have great players around him most of the time. He had a few, but not great, and what he did for that club, the games he won on his own, West Ham in the FA Cup final.
Yeah.
Obviously,
When he had cramp, he was saying.
yeah, exactly. Cramp, and he scored that wonder goal in Milan, and I think he scored in the UEFA Cup final, he scored in the League Cup final against Man United. Like, when you're talking about careers, well, people would have a quarter of his career.
Yeah. With that said, you mentioned the players there, and we spoke off camera before this. You played in the golden generation. We're only talking about midfielders here: Gerrard, Lampard, Scholes. The amount of talent that England team had. Why did the golden generation fail, do you think, or underperform?
Yeah. You say underperform, and I always touch on it. We lost in the 2002 World Cup to Brazil. And the Brazil team on that day, they had Ronaldinho, Rivaldo, Ronaldo, Roberto Carlos, Cafu, Lucio. I think Gilberto was playing it. And you think, yes, we were a world-class team, but that is like a Super World. Could you imagine having a front three like that?
Yeah.
So we needed a bit of luck, but I get the point you're saying with the talent we had, and it was just that we couldn't fit all these superstars in the team. It would be, in today's football, it would have worked perfectly because teams play like a 4-3-3 and you could have had Scholes, Gerrard and Lampard as the midfield three, but we were playing 4-4-2 them days, and Scholes got pushed out into the left, which I thought was one of the most disrespectful things that could have happened to a player like that. But it's a shame that a manager didn't get the best out of that crop of midfielders, and we ain't even mentioned Becks yet, and that is, we won't have an era like that in English football with that much talent in midfield, and even the defenders I talked about for a long, long time.
You said that was one of the most disrespectful things, pushing Scholes onto the left. So as an England member then, how did the players react when you see players being played out of position? Is it kind of like you just get on with it because you're representing England, or at the time are you like, hang on a minute, what's going on here?
It's a tough one because you understand the manager's problem, because you've got Lampard, who's a world-class midfielder, you've got Gerrard, who's a world-class midfielder, and all our midfield's world-class. And there was always the problem on the left. I got played on the left, Nick Barmby got played on the left, Danny Murphy got played on the left, Joe Cole got played on the left, and it was never solved. And that meant if one of us had to play on the left, then one of the big four would have been left out, and maybe Sven has to take a bit of blame, because like I said, he was always a 4-4-2 man. It was very rarely we played 4-3-3 or three at the back, so you could have three in midfield, because that would have worked well with Becks as a right wing back, Ashley Cole as a left wing back, and we could have still had Michael Owen and Rooney up front. So it is a shame, and like I said, to have that talent of world class, because that squad, the 2004 World Cup squad, I remember the team was Gary Neville right back, Ashley Cole left back, Sol and John Terry, because Rio missed the tournament because of the missed drugs test. Yeah. And then we had the midfield forward that I talked about, and we had Rooney, a young Rooney who was incredible, and Michael Owen, who was a world-class goal scorer. So that's like 10 world-class players. And like you look at the England team now, and Harry Kane is probably world-class, and I'd say Kyle Walker is in the top 5 right-backs in the world. And then you look at the rest of the team, and the potential's there to be world-class, but no one else is world-class. So it just goes to show how great that team was.
Yeah, amazing team. One more player, attacker. This is a tough one for you, because you played with some great strikers in your career.
Yeah, and I get a lot of stick all the time from Geordies, and it's because I always have Michael Owen in my dream team. And I'm not saying Michael Owen was a better player than Rooney or a better player than Alan Shearer. But I went to Newcastle at a time when it wasn't Euro 96 and it wasn't the first couple of years. When I got to Newcastle, Shearer had lost his yard of pace, so I never played with Shearer in his prime. Yes, he was still an incredible player and scored 30 goals a season. And again with Wazza, when I played with him at England, yes, he broke on the scene and was incredible, but again, I never got to play with him in his peak. And I think Michael Owen's peak was before he did his hamstring in that game against Leeds when you see him pull up. And that from his teens to just turning 20, I was lucky enough to play with him with all the England youth teams and the thing. And people used to think I was fast and people like Carl Walker were fast and Theo. He would leave us. It's just hard to explain that kind of pace and that finishing ability. And people don't realise how great he was with his head. And that's why I always have Michael. And it's again, I'm not saying he was the best striker, because I think the other two were better strikers. But I played with Michael when he was in his prime, and he was just absolutely fine.
Yeah, I don't think anyone can argue that. Owen in his prime, he still scored one of the most iconic goals. Yeah. Probably still to this day, that Argentina goal. Still. Yeah, it was. People think about that as one of their favourite England goals, don't they?
I always know where I was in that goal. I was in a bar in Iron Apple, and when he went on that run, I just knew as soon as he picked up the ball, it was a goal. And that clip was Michael Owen in his prime. Everything you needed to know about him, and also the goal. Can remember the goal when he just after that tournament he plays Newcastle at St James's Park, and him and Paul Ince do that.
The celebration.
And he does that goal, and he does the little think round thing, and that was. Yeah, it was unplayable then.
Unbelievable. Okay, so that's a great team. Super sub though, in case one of them's not performing. I mean, are you sticking a keeper as a super sub, or are you going full out and you're confident with that goalie?
Super sub, I will go for Bex. And again, he just had an aura about him. Forget about the footballer for a minute. When we went to the 2002 World Cup and we got off that plane, have you seen them concerts where Michael Jackson and the fans were fainting and that? Yeah. When he comes off the plane, it was like we were bigger than the Beatles, and it was all because of that man. And you think, like I touch on it in my book, how fame, it can get to you, it becomes intoxicating, and you can make mistakes. And how he stayed so humble, because he was bigger than a football, he was like, people call it Brand Beckham, he was a brand, he was an icon. And just to keep that humility as a human being, and that's not even talking about him as a footballer. Like when you're talking about a wand, his right foot, he could put it on anywhere. So I would have Bex on the bench.
Bex. And finally, Gaffer. Again, played with some great managers. If you had to pick one to manage this team, who would you go for?
Very simple, very easy. So Bobby Robson, up there to be not just the greatest manager in Britain, but the greatest manager ever in world football. I think he's got a case for it, for what he's achieved in the game. An incredible manager, England's most successful manager since Sir Alf Ramsey. Wasn't afraid to go to all these countries, conquered Portugal, conquered Holland, conquered Spain, conquered England. Incredible. And his assistant manager would be Craig Bellamy.
Craig Bellamy, yeah, good friend of yours, isn't he?
Yeah, and there's talk of him going into management, so hopefully he gets into the game very soon, because his knowledge is very good, and you see on shows like The Debate and stuff like that, he's incredible.
He knows his stuff. Yeah, Kieran, you mentioned Sir Bobby there. Where is it, the book? There it is. And Craig, they feature a lot. This is your new book out now. Old Too Soon, Smart Too Late. I have to say, I was flicking through it yesterday. You're very honest in this, aren't you?
Yeah,
there's some incredible stories in it.
That's what's so appealing about the book, I think, is that my honesty shines through. It's a warts and all kind of book, and I don't mind criticising myself and giving myself a hard time in the book.
Kieran, top man, mate.
Thank you.
What have the viewers got to do right now?
Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to Soccer AM on the YouTube channel.